The Palestinian authorities accused Israel of collective punishment on day 3 of its military incursion in the occupied West Bank. Israel's army has defended the raids, saying they are a response to hundreds of terror attacks. Well, the raids have killed at least 10 Palestinians in Jenin alone. Witnesses say the refugee camp is under siege, with Israeli forces having blocked off roads and cut off electricity. Hospitals are using fuel reserves to power up their emergency operations.
Yesterday, we didn't want to leave. We were at home. Today, they sent a drone into our neighbourhood, telling us to leave the camp, or they'll blow it up. They said no houses will be left or anything. They want to do to us what they did in Gaza. They got us out and they closed the roads. Now they're holding up all the young people, and they're not letting anyone through.
Israeli forces have also carried out more raids in the town of Burkin, west of Jenin. 2 Palestinian fighters were killed there. The army says they belong to Islamic Jihad armed group.
We were sitting at home, and without warning and without being told to leave the house, shooting started towards the house. We went outside during the exchange of fire, and we were raising our hands up. The Israeli army took us near the neighbor's house but did not allow us to enter. We were in the middle of the clash between the gunmen and the Israelis, and the bullets were directed at us from both sides.
Jazeera senior political analyst, he joins us live now from Doha. So 3 days, Marwan, into this Israeli military operation in Jenin, and it looks like it's going to continue. What do you make of the timing here of this escalation in the occupied West Bank? And what do you think Israel's real goal is here?
Well, the timing is certainly related to what is happening in Gaza. As we see some sort of a pause, a ceasefire, a temporary one take hold, we see the Israeli government refocusing its attention, its wrath on the West Bank. We've sort of understood that a long time ago. I've said from early on, after Gaza would be the West Bank, because if Gaza is the big strategic challenge for Israel, the West Bank is the big strategic reward. And their eyes are on the reward, not that they destroyed Gaza. And then there is, of course, the resignation of the Israeli generals and after taking responsibility for the failure of October 7. Certainly an operation in Jenin and in the West Bank in general would be a great deflection tactic, whereby it refocuses the Israelis away from the fiasco of October 7 and onto a new war that is basically taking place in the West Bank. And then there is the idea that Netanyahu wants to take advantage of a new administration in Washington, one that does not mind annexations in the West Bank, in order to start carrying de facto policy of annexations.
So do you think because Donald Trump is now in the White House, this is now giving the Israeli government the green light to expand its occupation?
Yes, there's no doubt about that. But that's not to say that Israel has not been expanding and deepening its occupation and expanding its settlements for years and decades now. And it's not to say that the war in Jenin is anything new. Every year, every other year, we've had an invasion of Jenin. The greatest invasion of Jenin, of course, happened back in 2002. But since then, many invasions happened. I mean, during the 2022 invasion, we had the killing of our colleague, if you remember, Sharon. In 2023, the invasion of Jenin led to the displacement of at least 4,000 people in the beginning of it. And now we're talking about 2,000 families. That's more like 10,000 people already being displaced out of Jenin and its refugee camp. So Netanyahu, as he carries this operation, it's not just about today and the now. It's about an ideology. It's about a strategy. Netanyahu does not think the 1948 war is over. He's still fighting 1948. He still thinks there's no time for peace, not only with Hamas. He does not want peace with the Palestinian Authority. He doesn't even want dialogue with the Palestinian Authority. And hence he's taking his war into its new frontier. He wants to pacify Jenin. He wants to expand the settlements in the northern part of the West Bank. And by doing all of that, and this is a very important historical reference here, Malin, and it's the following. Netanyahu is following in the footsteps of his mentor, Ariel Sharon. Netanyahu served both as prime minister, but later on as finance minister and foreign minister in the Sharon government. Now, for many of us who followed Sharon, we were always, not exactly sure to call him the bulldozer or the butcher. Well, clearly Netanyahu is doing both. And now we have Netanyahu, the bulldozer, bulldozing everyone and everything politically and physically, as he did in Gaza and he's doing in Jenin and other parts of the West Bank. And he's also bulldozing everything politically and physically. And in a sense, he's carrying major crimes, as he did in Gaza, and now he's carrying major political crimes against peace, against the ceasefire, against any arrangement in the West Bank, against any dialogue with the PLO, and so on and so forth. So we have Netanyahu following in Sharon's footsteps. Sharon, who's the one who destroyed more or less Jenin back in 2002, I think Netanyahu is redoing it again. And if we want to know more about where Netanyahu is heading further into the future, let's just look back at Sharon. Gaza is not important. It is a strategic challenge, but that's not the reward. He doesn't mind if Gaza is basically cut off and left to the sea. What he wants to focus on, and his coalition government want to focus on, is swallowing, annexing much of the West Bank.
Many thanks for that. Marwan Bishara, Al Jazeera senior political analyst there for us in Doha.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.